All right, guys, I hope you're ready because right now we're going to get into World War I. There is so much that goes into talking about World War I. It's unfortunate that you cannot be here with me right now. I would love it, but it just can't happen. So we're going to have to do the next best thing, which is like this. This is a very interesting unit. It's everything we've talked about has kind of led to this point, and this, even more than World War II, is going to have an impact on Europe, really like no other, I would say, in terms of Europe's top dog, and we will see later on if they maintain that status. And it really all starts here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you some context for this. Here's what I would like you to do. I know this is a bit unusual. You may or may not have your warm-up sheets. Actually, you should. So here's what we'll do. Take out your warm-up sheets, and I want you to write down a brief description of how this event went down. In other words, the backstory behind this picture, okay? That's your warm-up. That's your proof that you heard it from me. Okay, so the backstory is that this whole event is going to take place in the nation of Serbia. It's going, Serbia isn't huge significance. In fact, I think the first time I've mentioned the country Serbia has been right here today, okay? And we're in almost in April, and we're talking about Serbia for the first time. Serbia is more responsible than anything for triggering this conflict, and here's why. There was it's part of this multi-ethnic country that we have been talking about, that being Austria-Hungary, okay? So Austria-Hungary was the lead, was one of the lead powers. We talked about how it had fallen off a little bit. They had had an emperor in power for a long time now. His name is Franz Joseph, okay? Franz Joseph, very popular, kind ruler, but he's getting older. And it is his nephew who is the successor to the throne. His nephew is Franz Ferdinand, okay? And Franz Ferdinand is taking a trip to Serbia. And it's important to note that there are terrorist groups within Serbia. The one we're going to be talking about is called the Black Hand, that do not like Austria's dominion over them. Okay, that would do anything to kind of throw them off, destabilize the situation, and potentially spark a war. I don't know if they had a world war in mind, but they wanted some sort of conflict that might lead to them getting independence. And so they knew that Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie, that they were going to be coming to the Serbian capital of Belgrade, and they were going to go essentially on parade and an open cab, right? And there would be potentially a situation where they may be able to assassinate him. So the Black Hand, this terrorist group, they're going to come up with a plan. And this plan, 2 guys were going to have bombs. 2 guys were going to have knives. And 2 guys were going to have guns. And they were going to, and all 6 of these guys were going to situate themselves at various intervals in the parade. Okay? And so what they were going to do was each group was going to an attempted assassination. So they get to the guys with, I believe it was the guys with the bombs. There were guys that had bombs first. And they were going to throw the bomb, try to get it into the cart and kill him, okay? So the parade's coming by, the Archduke and his wife, they're waving to the crowd and all this other stuff. And one of the terrorists, he takes the bomb that he had, lights it, and throws it right at the cab. And it's a bullseye, but it hits off of the door of the cab. and it ends up rolling into the crowd behind, okay, in the parade, killing several of those people and causing kind of a scene. Interestingly enough, they choose to go on with the parade. The Archduke and his wife stay in the parade. The guy who threw the bomb, just a side note, he attempted to run away. He ended up jumping into the river while he was being chased by police. When he jumped into the river to try to drown himself, he found that he was standing in all of about 6 inches of water. At that point in time, he attempted to bite a cyanide tablet that he had in his mouth. And when he did that, the cyanide pill was old. It didn't work. It just made him throw up. And so his 2 suicide attempts failed, and they end up capturing that guy. But anyway, the parade goes on, right? The Archduke and his wife, they're kind of rattled by this, understandably, and they, kind of upset too. So they decide to stop their participation in the parade. And they had the idea that they would go to the hospital to try to, visit with the people who had been wounded in the bomb accident. Okay. Well, they leave the parade. The 2 gentlemen with the guns realize that they've left the parade, and they think it's a lost cause. One of these guys, his name is Gavrilo Princip. Gavrilo Princip. Please do write his name down. It is important. And he decides, well, it's a lost cause. I'm going to go to this sandwich shop a couple of blocks away and just sit down in the restaurant, eat a sandwich, and think about hopefully whatever the next opportunity is going to be. Okay, so that's what he does. Meanwhile, Franz Ferdinand and his wife going to the hospital. The driver of the cab, he's from Austria-Hungary. He does not know the streets of Belgrade. Gets lost, okay, trying to go to the hospital. Eventually goes down this one road, and when he realizes he's actually going down the wrong road, he tries to put the car in reverse. And when he tries to put the car in reverse, remember, the year's 1914. Cars are fairly new. The car stalls. Well, wouldn't you know it? It stalled right in front of the restaurant in which Gavrilo Princip is eating. So, literally, Princip is sitting there, perhaps looking down at the sidewalk and thinking, man, we really screwed this up. And he looks up and he sees he sees his targets, literally, in a disabled vehicle right in front of him. So what does he do? He goes right up, takes his gun out, and fires 2 rounds into Franz Ferdinand, and then another one into his pregnant wife, Sophie, in her abdomen area. Okay. Then what I'm about to read to you is an account of this whole thing, okay, taken from the driver of the vehicle. Okay, so go ahead and listen to this as we go through it. So the account reads as follows. As the car quickly reversed, a thin stream of blood spurted from His Highness, that's Franz Ferdinand's mouth, onto my right cheek. As I was pulling out my handkerchief to wipe away the blood from my mouth, the Duchess cried out to him, "For God's sake, what happened to you?" At that, she slid off the seat and lay on the floor of the car with her face between her knees, between his knees. I had no idea that she was hit too, and thought she had simply fainted with fright. Then I heard His Imperial Highness say, "Sophie, Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for the children." At that, I seized the Archduke by the collar of his uniform to stop his head from dropping forward, and asked him if he was in great pain. He answered me quite distinctly, "It is nothing." His face began to twitch somewhat, but then he went on repeating 6 or 7 times, even more faintly, as he lost consciousness, "It is nothing." Then came a brief pause followed by a convulsive rattle in his throat caused by a loss of blood. This ceased on arrival at the governor's residence. The two unconscious bodies were carried into the building where their death was soon established. So this was a horrible scene, and potentially one of the great coincidences of history, the fact that this assassination even had the chance to take place. And so what would soon follow was Austria-Hungary making severe demands of Serbia. Demands they could not and would not accept. Okay? Which would ultimately lead to World War I. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about more with this unit. Okay? So stay tuned.